Good. How are you?
Previous calls for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I miss?
Lauren Turner shared about AI, but she shared some different prompts she uses, and we talked about different AI tools people are using and things like that. I haven't gotten the recording up yet, though.
Okay.
I will eventually.
Oh, that's fine, don't worry. You have to apologize. I'm sitting there nibbling on a biscuit pre dinner, or a couple of biscuits just to kind of get me through.
I think something happened there. Okay. How is everyone this week?
Good.
Exhausted.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, exhausted. That's a good word.
Am I the only one? Has everyone else's pace just like getting to end a year and all of a sudden the pace has just a lot going on?
That's it. Yeah. Just keeps piling on. All good stuff. All good stuff. Just busy.
We were initially going to be having Sienna and Alexi get on and share their questions and thoughts about customer marketing, impacting, onboarding, and adoption, but they both cannot make today's call. So we can either continue to talk about that or in just our thoughts around that, because I'm sure there's people on this call that have some ideas or experience there, or we can talk about something else completely. And I know in a couple of weeks we were planning on doing like having a follow-up to this discussion as well with Caitlin from G2. So that's also an option if you want to continue talking about that. It's totally up to you all. Anyone have any preferences? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm easy either way. Although I'd love to pick the hive mind on just a question on customer advocacy, sort of internationally. But
Okay.
What do you want to know?
so I'd love to know whether any of you guys have had experience of working with companies in India specifically and for the Middle East around customer advocacy, success marketing. How it's viewed there. Do they embrace it in the same way? And whether you think there are real opportunities to sort of expand and explore in those markets. And I should say the backdrop to this is I'm basically looking for my next role, so I'm pivoting from my background in demand gen and field marketing and PR and comms. So ironically, I've actually done customer success and advocacy in various aspects in previous roles, but that's where I'm really focused on now. So really keen to understand anybody's experiences in those markets.
I mean, I've onboarded from my past two companies, I've onboarded definitely some advocates from India. It wasn't very many. We had very few. I had more of those folks engaging in the conversation, so more working with sales to request more conversations from the companies in India with our reference customers. But I didn't have a high number of folks joining, but I think it was also because our customer base was lower. So it wasn't necessarily because they didn't want to join. I think they found value in the program, but it was just because our customer base was lower, so that probably doesn't really help you. They definitely saw value in customer advocacy programs, especially most of the folks I talked with. We would have business discussions and technical. They were typically highly technical, with more user space than more executive conversations. That's kind of more my experience.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful, and I'm guessing that's through your previous company or where you are now.
I'm at Stripe now, but I'm just like started, and I haven't even gotten into really the customer base because I'm working on some internal initiatives first. So it was with my customer base at BMC and with Teradata, who was with for a long time.
Okay, yeah, and the reason I asked that is my sense, and I could be wrong here, but my sense is if there are companies that are either headquartered in the US or Europe where and they are transnational, then absolutely there are opportunities to kind of reach out to customers in India. But I'm also keen to explore and understand how Indian-based tech companies, B2B companies, whether they kind of see the value of customer advocacy marketing, because they're also expanding in their own way.
Yeah, so my experience is with global or international companies who have a presence in India. I don't know that we've ever worked with one that is based in India necessarily. But there definitely is. Daniel made a really great comment, which is where I was going to be headed, and that is that meetups and user groups and things like that around technical conversations do really, really well. And that's where I've seen the most success in pulling out advocacy or advocates, finding advocates. I don't know that really helps you a whole lot, since we don't have India-based companies necessarily. We just have global companies.
No, it all helps. It's good to get the perspective because, as I said, I'm dipping toe in that space, and I'm looking potentially at opportunities to see whether there are companies out there who are willing to take a punt and say, yeah, absolutely, we want to start doing some advocacy and kind of success marketing. So it's just to try and get a handle on their level of awareness and understanding. And I've got my own perspective and view on that based on some of my conversations, interactions with Indian tech companies and a while back.
I've found that the groups that I've worked with they don't mind talking about the tools they use, and they don't mind saying good things and bad things about the tools they use. But the issue is that they move around frequently, where they job hop a lot more than in other parts of the world, in my experience. And so having a person at a particular organization, they may not be at that particular organization next week when you need a reference. So it's been challenging. It's not a bad thing necessarily to be at the individual level, right? It's to say, because they are very kind. If they really like your tool, they'll talk it up. They share it with their peeps, whatever that means, in the business that they're in. But because they change so frequently, it's the cult of the individual, not an ability to have a logo, right, associated with it.
No, that's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I would think because even if they're SaaS companies or tech companies in India, if they are in competition with other countries, they may have to have some level of getting the customers to be active and doing some advocacy, whether it's reviews or even participating in a community and sharing their experiences. So, but I'm not there. I'm not in a lot of those groups, or not groups, but I don't have a lot of experience with companies that are in India.
Sure. And again, the reason I'm asking that, again, I've worked with some Indian tech companies a while back, and I mean, whilst the market is maturing and has matured around marketing PR, my sense is still that marketing is seen as kind of business development. It's kind of like, oh yeah, marketing, and it's like, oh, can you go off and do some sales collateral? It's like, no, that isn't marketing. Yeah, we can do collateral, but that isn't marketing. There's more to it. Or it's very narrow focus, which is, hey, let's just do digital because everybody's doing digital, so let's just do digital marketing, and that's going to drive revenue. And what I'm trying to get across is actually you can do all of those things, but it's a channel, but you need to spend more time with your customers and invest in that customer base, particularly now when companies and are being more cautious about the investments. So okay, no, but this has been really helpful. Thank you.
No problem. Christina wanted to talk about onboarding anyways. I think it'd be great to come up with some ideas on how customer marketing advocacy can impact onboarding, and even ways we can work with the teams that do onboarding to make a difference for our customers. Does anybody have any ideas or questions they want to start with?
Hi, Mary. Yes, I definitely wanted to chat about to onboarding and kind of get people's perspectives on, if what the nuances might be and differences might be of onboarding when you have maybe both a high touch customers, right? Where like CS is onboarding, but then you also have a tier of customers that are automated, and kind of like where the overlap is, and maybe how people approach some of those differences.
Any thoughts?
I mean, we definitely have that. We've got a wide range of experiences in onboarding, and I wish I had an answer for you. But we have the same issues. There's not a consistent experience. And ours runs the full gamut. We have customers that we don't talk to at all. They just order online. And then we've got customers that AEs talk to, every couple of days. And unfortunately, we just don't have a consistent experience. I wish I had some insight to offer you, but we're struggling with the same things.
I actually might be able to offer a perspective here. I work for a SaaS company, and we have the two different tiers of service. We have those kind of those automatic customers who pretty much the service that they purchase is they do it themselves. They have to onboard themselves. They have to do certain things. And we started out kind of applying well, here's the resources, make sure that they're aware of them and let them go at it. And we saw kind of difficulty getting those customers to be successful in the long run. So we ended up starting to do one-to-many sessions. We have a tier of CS coaches that don't do one-on-one service specifically, but they offer these onboarding sessions to kind of get those customers from that handoff from sales into that success mindset of where do they start? Because our product can be very complicated depending on which pieces they've purchased. So we wanted to kind of give them a good activation start, like let's get you ready to launch your product. And then we offer scaled resources for them through training, support guide, our community as well, so that we can kind of keep them connected with each other and keep them moving along. And then we started kind of seeing that wasn't enough. We know that our other accounts where they get that one-on-one coach service do better. And our self-starter customers, which that's kind of the tier that we call them, weren't doing so well. even with those one-to-many resources and those one-to-many sessions. So we started offering these one-to-one services as well, and we started to see a really big uptick. We don't do it to all of them, of course, because that would be unscalable, but we've offered these kind of like strategy review sessions to get them continuing to use the product and using it in the right way so that they can plan their product from what they're trying to achieve to what they need to use to get there to how do they measure success. So kind of giving them the skill set they need to be successful, and it just happens to be using our product to get there. So we found that we were starting to see a heck of a lot more success that way, where we give them not necessarily that one-to-one, but the skill set of how they can do it themselves. And so it's kind of like training to train them along the way. So we've definitely started kind of evolving it over the last couple of years, and we're starting to see some improvements that way when it comes to those scaled services. Not necessarily saying that this will work for every company, but sometimes it's about teaching them how to teach themselves to get to that point, and just giving them kind of the skill set that a CS coach would need to be able to help a customer and get them there along the way. And we noticed that worked with our more one-to-one touches customers. So we're like, okay, well, let's figure out how to do that with everybody. So yeah, there's still definitely challenges, and we're still working on kind of training our different tiers of coaches to work with these different tiers of customers. But we are definitely starting to see more success that way.
That's great insight, Teresa. Thank you for sharing that. And the teaching them how to teach themselves, is it where did you find those SMEs to help with that? Because I just started at this new company, and something that I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have to go to like maybe some solution engineers, because there's no resources on the CS side that are going to be able to help with that, or just, learn myself and kind of teach that. Just curious on how that's laid out at your company.
So we experimented over the last couple of years of the best way to try to take this down. And we had first tried with a third-party service that really works in value management. And that wasn't as successful as we thought. So we actually hired somebody who specifically focuses in value management. This is what he is been trained to do. He used to work at Salesforce. He came to us and he's like, okay, let's start at the basics. Let's figure out what are the things that actually get a customer to be successful and to be able to talk about that success easily, internally and externally. So he came up with a series of principles to get them there. And what we noticed is in meetings where he was sitting with our higher touch accounts, we were seeing higher retention rates. We were seeing less churn examples of like sponsor loss or value realization. So when we got him in there, we realized, okay, well, we need to work with how do I put this? We have a category of SME at our company that works in psychology. So we call it people science, but they actually help us think of kind of how you tie business objectives to people objectives, which is kind of where we sell our software, and how do you get them to be successful with that. And so we worked with our people science and our value management person and created training for our coaches on how to specifically talk to these pieces of how do you get a customer to tie what they're trying to achieve with their product to their own company's business objectives in a way that makes sense, and then they can quickly and easily launch and measure to get to those objectives and talk about the outcomes that they see. So he created a training program with our enablement team, and we've been training our coaches to be able to talk to this. We've been creating training materials that we can have those coaches use, and we've been creating assets that we can use with customers so that they can easily understand those steps in the process as well. So it's It's been a long year of trying to get us to that point. And we're, of course, still trying to make sure it's efficient, but we ended up hiring an additional person for our value management team that was able to help bring that in. So we specifically tried many different ways to do it. It turns out we need a SME hired externally to come in and create a program for it. So that's kind of that was our experience. I think you have to find the right person to do it, but value management actually was the way that we went about it.
And Teresa, hi, I'm Mary. Nice to
Hi.
meet you. What does your company sell?
We are a employee engagement software. I don't know if everyone, this is my first time joining this meeting, and actually my coworker suggested I stop by for this one. I don't know if we talk about our companies that we work for. I'm
Oh, no,
not really
you're
sure
fine.
how that goes about. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
you can share where you work. We're very laid back,
okay.
just conversation.
I work at a company called Culture Amp. We do
Oh,
employee engagement software.
okay. Should
So
yeah,
you're seeing a little bit of the sausage
Sheethal?
making. Hmm?
Yes, Sheethal, is that her name?
Sheetal, yes.
Sheethal, yes. I just talked to her earlier today. No, I think that's very helpful. Like, um, it and like what you're talking about here is really customer education
Hmm.
to some degree, and I find that coming up more and more in customer marketing and just anything really post sales because there's so much overlap with helping customers be successful. It's educating them, and sometimes the education is around our product, and that's a lot of times where I think customer success is very helpful or traditionally helpful. But for me, from a community background, I think it's about helping them be successful in their jobs and their careers and what they're doing and like what they're pursuing in that strategy and such. And that opens up a whole bigger, a much bigger world of what we can teach. But I like the approach of trying multiple things to see what works because every audience seems to be just different enough that you have to try different things to see what's going to work for them.
Exactly. I have been in the customer success world before this position, and while I'm in customer marketing, I'm kind of a unique title where I focus on adoption and engagement, about getting the customer to stay a customer. And we hadn't really approached it from that perspective before. So there was a lot of experimentation over the last couple of years of what works, and trying to do think about things outside of the box. Education is a huge part of our successful customers. We have a complete a training site just for them, but we realized that wasn't enough. We couldn't just have these like one-to-many trainings. We also wanted to think about um, how can we evolve our customer success coaches as well to get to the point where we have trainers, we have those that think about strategy, we have those that implement the product. So we had to start really thinking about what was best for the customer to be successful, and how do we change ourselves to get to the point where they are more successful because of that.
I love that. Thinking more about the customer. Like it just seems so, well, duh, like type of thing, but it's true. And yeah, sorry for that, duh, but you can tell I'm from the 90s. No, I think that's really helpful. Christine had asked, I'm not sure if you saw it. She asked if your organization has a customer education part, but actually she asked Christina. So, but does Culture Amp have customer education as well, or does that fall under different kind of departments?
We do. It's not necessarily in customer marketing, it's part of our customer experience team. So we have
Yeah.
an individual, Liz, who started this year and has really been developing our educational portal, our what we call Culture of Training, or CAT. Um, and I've been working very closely with our CX team in the things that we do, where we have like a scaled customer experience, we have scaled training, we have a lot of the scaled services, but we also have our coaches who are doing the one-to-one touches, and where we can, where I help them out as well. So it's kind of it's a weird mishmash of, well, yeah, that may not be a traditional role that we play,
Mhm.
but we're all involved in each other's business. It's the
Yeah,
only
no,
way to make sure that we're all working towards the best customer interest we can.
yeah, and I'll just say this year specifically, there has been a lot more um, movement in the adoption area in customer marketing. So I'm seeing a lot more conversations around increasing adoption, even impacting revenue just in this past 12 months for customer marketing. So it sounds like you're a little bit ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it was something we weren't quite expecting to do when we started out a couple years ago. I got a lot of, "What do you do again?" when I started, but just from my previous experience with customer success, and of course, I used to be a UX designer and run product as well, so I had a lot of that experience. And I'm like, I brought this forward into customer marketing and advocacy, and was like, you know what? Let's try things a little differently. Let's see what works. So we've definitely seen some long-term success happening because of the kind of the new ways of looking at things.
Yeah, that sounds great. Christina, did she answer your question well?
Yes, absolutely. That was really helpful. Yeah, and that education side, we do have a robust team, and we'll definitely be leveraging that for our kind of autopilot low touch tier of customers. And then this has given me good food for thought of how to approach the high touch tier. And we definitely, I wish we had a value engineering team. So I'm gonna have to source internal SMEs and see if we can get a proxy to a value engineering team.
And being this is customer marketing and, advocacy as a part of that, there's the idea of finding customers that want to do customer-led tutorials and things like that too. I think it tends to add a level of trust to the education, because it's not just the company saying, here, go do this, because it's going to help you be successful with what we want you to be successful with. It's another customer saying, I just want to share this because it worked really well for me and I want to give back. And customers want to hear from each other, so put them to work.
Oh yeah, could not agree more. That was definitely something that I joined this company. It's called Air Slate, and it's workflow automation. So there's like a Sign Now, which is like an Adobe Sign type product, and that's definitely my first one of my first big projects. Finding customers that would be comfortable leading workshops, either virtual or in person, right? Because it's just that much more valuable when you hear it from a colleague, like here.
That's great. Let's see here. I saw somebody else. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts on onboarding and how it's played a role in your customer marketing, or how you've tried to influence onboarding and adoption and try to like help your goals by working with the adoption and onboarding teams? Oh, bye, Daniel.
This is Taylor.
Hi.
Hello.
Been a while.
I know. My life is, yeah, work has been crazy, but I'm so glad we're talking about onboarding today. Um, I would love to hear from anyone else who works at a company that's kind of in the dev tools space or otherwise like a highly technical product. I have been wanting to build out an air coverage onboarding campaign for a long time. Most of our customers are not on our SaaS product, they're on an on-prem product, which just adds a whole level of complication to all of this. Basically, what it means is that we have no data to understand like where they are in the onboarding process. And we have a ton of investment in professional services, and kind of similar to Teresa, what you were saying, right? Like what we have found, we have the data. Our customers who purchase professional services are extremely often successful, but our customers who don't, it takes them over a year just to get something up and running with our product. I mean, it's extremely long time to adoption. So what I'm trying to balance is what can we provide from a marketing standpoint, right? Very much it's going to be one to many. I love the idea of, education or like scaled tutorials, something like that. But I would love to hear if anybody has been in this type of situation, like a highly technical tool, very long onboarding period. Like what levers can we pull from a marketing standpoint that can help with this?
Where are you with, what company are you with?
Yeah, I'm at a company called Kong. We are in the like API management space.
Oh,
Christine,
okay.
you just smiled. Are you familiar with Kong?
Of course, I'm familiar with Kong.
Oh, heck yeah. Not the dog toy company. I always have to tell people that that would be a lot more fun. This is like API management. It's not that, I mean, it's interesting, but
It was one of the tools I always recommended when I was talking about APIs back in the old days.
amazing.
But just for information, I think one of the most successful, well, there's two things I think that led to be more successful with that particular type of user is open office hours for sharing and Discord community.
Yeah.
Those two things just by themselves helped with so that it was a mutual sharing society, because you don't have the capability of clearly identifying usage through metrics to figure out where people are in the product and what they're doing. If you can get them to be a part of those communities, either the live sessions or asynchronous through Discord, it does help you kind of figure it out a little bit better in terms of stats, so that you can build better plans around potential on-demand, usually delivery, because that type of user goes in for the quick win, not for they don't usually want to spend days or even hours at a time training initially. They want answers to questions quickly, and then they want to be able to move on to the next thing. But you might want to look, Taylor, the guys at MongoDB.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, take a look at their online university.
Ooh, that's good. I haven't looked at theirs. Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is for our situation, the good thing is that we have a really large open source community of like individual users. So we have a lot of community and education and support built around that. We have gotten a ton of pushback from our enterprise sales reps around getting our enterprise customers, like our paid customers, involved in community with our open source users. This will probably surprise no one. They are sure that if paying customers hear that somebody's able to do something for free, they're immediately going to stop paying for the thing. I don't think that that's actually true. It doesn't work out that way, but this is what I've had pushback getting our customers integrated in our broader community, where we already have a lot of this infrastructure. So, but I love that. And I do think that's the answer. Like I'm pro that.
Yeah,
I think it's
with
just
that,
gonna be...
that user group is that level of user is they love to talk to each other about their latest hack, about their shortcuts that they were able to find, and they love to share that kind of stuff. So providing them with every opportunity to do that will certainly helps. And I agree with you. I don't think that that sharing open source with on-prem is necessarily a bad thing, because they serve different purposes, really.
Totally. This is great. Well, I don't want to totally, rabbit hole the whole conversation, Christine. Maybe I will follow up with you via the Slack.
Sure.
And I would love to get some more of your thoughts on like this type of customer in particular. Man, I've been trying to build out this onboarding sequence for 18 months and have not gotten very far. So
happy to help.
No, I think you present a case though that is very interesting for the group, because one, like you said, you've been trying to build this out. For me, I've noticed that a lot of times with an audience like that, the email's not super effective. So I wonder about that onboarding process and getting them involved in that community. So are these people that are, because you're saying you can't mix the communities right now, bring in the enterprise and the people that are using it for free. So is it the people that are enterprise are struggling to get through that onboarding in a year, or is it the free people that are struggling to get onboarded?
Yeah. It's the paid folks, so people who are paying users, who or at companies, right? It's B2B. So paying companies who haven't purchased additional professional services, or maybe they have purchased some professional services, but they are still struggling. And I think it's less that we can't incorporate them into the community, but more that I'm trying to build the business case for why we should do that, right? So I think it's more about, some of this is like on me to build the business case about why it's going to be more valuable than risky to integrate them into our broader community. Because the community infrastructure exists already, which is great. It's just it's not inclusive as much of this user group. So
I think something that has worked for me in the past, not specifically with this audience, but just in general with B2B SaaS, is trying to build a bit of a sense of community within smaller groups of customers. So if without it being a forum or a discussion place, even like monthly calls or something that these people can start to build some connection with each other, without, so that you can build up that business case for bringing them into the entire community. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I mean, and we have, for our most strategic customers, right? We have a customer advisory board, and we have seen that, as we've invested more in that, it certainly has been helpful in building that community. I think where we struggle is, with the resource. I mean, I'm sure this is not a surprise to most people, right? But like the resourcing, right? Who is going to do this work? Are we willing to pay? Are we willing to allocate budget, which is extremely stretched and limited, to support this level of customers, or are we willing to just sell them once and hope they get value, and then maybe they don't, and that's fine too. I think that has sort of been the implicit attitude for a long time. And as I'm sure many of you are, I'm starting to hear a lot more about how important retention is, and expansion and cross sell. Everyone's really, really focused on that for 2024. And I'm, of course, over here like, yeah, where have you guys been? Like, that's been important. So I think it's about so many moving pieces coming together, and just again, like, as with everything in marketing, like experimenting, iterating, trying something, seeing what works, and then,
And have you already done the open office hours that Christine was talking about with this group? I'm just wondering because for me, like open office hours or roundtables with a specific topic can be pretty easy to plan and pull off without the same level of it's a webinar or a fireside chat with all of these people that have to show up. And you can kind of test with, a group that started 3 months ago and bringing them together with a monthly call, kind of encouraging them in the call to connect outside of what that call is so that they have friends, community, a network to tap into to help with that onboarding process. That's kind of what my idea with like building a sense of community among these people is just, are you interested in meeting other customers who are in a similar space than you? If yes, then drop them in a group, send them an email. We're going to have this monthly call, and get on with a few questions yourself, or somebody internally can ask a couple of questions. But generally, just like this call, people will come in with questions and others hop on and share.
Yeah, no, I love this idea. So we have run programs that are like small group, kind of moving small cohorts of new customers through a series. They are slightly more webinar-y though. And what we experienced with that was what you often get with webinar series, which was there was a ton of attendance and engagement in the first few, and then it really dropped off for the later ones. So I love the idea of pivoting that program into something where it is less, I think we called it office hours, but it really was more of a tutorial, but pivoting that to something that is a little bit more of an open forum and more focused on getting the customers to connect with each other rather than us talking at them, because we have a lot of, async materials that they can use for that part. So I really like that idea. I will definitely think about that.
Yeah, there's just something about bringing these customers together. When I worked at Outreach, we had a similar open office hours webinar thing. And for me, I was just like, if it's open office hours, then why am I coming and it's a webinar? I'm not getting the ability to input my own questions and what's happening with me right now. And while some of the webinar was helpful, it's really this having more control over your time, hopping on a call, knowing you're going to be able to ask a question that pertains to what you need answered now, and meeting these other people that are just like you, and you can reach out to them. And as I've been talking to more B2B SaaS companies about building a sense of community in these calls, it's not just, Taylor's talking to Christina and Teresa, but connect with each other, jump onto LinkedIn after this and talk to each other and follow up, because we all want community in some way, at least on this call. And I think those people that, use the APIs and Kong and things like that, they do want to talk to each other very often, because they're very intelligent people and they like to share the things that they find. So I think that's why I'm explaining the idea of letting these customers connect more, but within a program that you can really control by not having them in that community quite yet, and get some feedback, get some ideas in that business case to say, hey, when we put these people around other people, they implement in 6 months instead of a year, things like that. Yeah, so thank you for hopping on and asking your question. Does anybody else have a question? I see, Morgan, that you're talking about user groups for customers to connect. I've done a lot of community work in the past, which is kind of anything from user groups to cabs and large communities on forums and stuff. So I'm happy to talk about that if nobody else wants to continue talking about onboarding. Sophie, you jumped on. I saw that it looked like you were trying to get in. Thank you for coming.
Oh, yes, of course. It's my first time, so kind of just listening in for now, but happy to be here.
Yes, it's a merry messy call. I just threw this together about a year and a half ago, and people seem to enjoy hopping on and asking questions and sharing what they know. That whole idea of we're all experts in different areas. So welcome to the call. Jump in if you have anything you want to ask or share. Were you specifically interested in this topic?
Awesome. Yeah, I actually just started in a new customer lifecycle marketing role, and I think a portion of my focus is going to be on onboarding eventually. So anything related to customer adoption, expansion is really going to be in my wheelhouse. So onboarding is super relevant. So just wanted to listen in and hear some ideas from other folks.
Yeah, I think onboarding, adoption, and retention are very big areas right now for customer marketing. Christine here is very active in the customer education space as well, which lends to be very helpful for customer marketing because of that adoption, retention, and stuff. So we can ask her, do you have any thoughts for Sophie?
Oh my gosh. Specifically, yeah, there's tons of different ways that you can work with it. The onboarding structure in my ideal world, it belongs in customer education, and we let them create a standard series, and that can be on demand. It can be delivered in multiple modalities, whether so that you can accommodate, like Teresa was talking about her levels of user, right? I think you said 3 in there, Teresa. And you can go ahead and build content that is relatively the same, but delivered in different modalities to accommodate the levels of users that you might have, whether they're all on demand or not, and what high touch looks like. But if you start there and let that part build, then for me that starts after contract sale and before implementation.
Mm-hmm.
In the life cycle, right? So the first thing they do after a kickoff is they have an onboarding, and that structure gives them big picture concepts about the software. It gives them a lot of activity around decisions that they're going to be making as part of implementation. It's not an implementation series at all. It's really designed just to get them informed of everything that they need, and then roll into implementation, and then supplement that with additional training in whatever that can mean, right? Again, multiple varieties of tools. But what you'll find is there's going to be some golden nuggets that will come from the training aspect of it. And the same with community. We see the same kinds of numbers with community, but those customers that get X amount of training or X types of training, and again, different for each organization, but those people tend to adopt and retain at levels that are significantly higher, as little as 17%, as much as 43% in some studies. Same with community. If you have a vibrant community of people sharing information, that too can increase adoption and retention.
That's
So
great.
if in my ideal world, I would start there and build out a concept that gets them in with other people right away.
That's great
And
advice.
at all levels too, Sophie, all levels. So practitioner levels and champion levels too. So
Definitely,
you're
that
not
makes sense.
single threading, right? Because you don't want to single thread yourself into a corner later on.
Definitely, that makes sense. My organization kind of just started building out their community earlier this year, and I joined like a month ago, so still very new. So excited, I think, kind of focusing on the right things, but trying to get everything built out in the short term and getting buy-in and all of those things as well.
How long
Yeah.
have you been in the role?
A month actually, so very new. But before this, I was also in customer lifecycle marketing, just at a different organization. So just kind of at a different phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love what Christine has to say about community, because most of you know I'm very big on community. And, I love that it has that overlap with helping with all these different metrics for customers, and I feel like it gives a little bit more sense of control, because while we create a lot of content and provide these spaces where they can go and search for things, I think psychologically there's a bit to be like, some of it can be difficult, because you're like, well, what do I search for? What's the right keyword to look for? What exactly do I need to know? And it almost adds a slight level of anxiety, which people tend to avoid. And not everyone thinks through, oh, I'm just being a little anxious because I'm not sure it's the right word. But when you have a community that you've answered questions in before, you have that level of safety, psychological safety and comfort, and you can say, hey, I have a question about XYZ, and it tends to go over pretty well as far as others wanting to respond. But let's see, Morgan was asking about community, and I just wanted to go back to that a little bit. And also what I was saying to Taylor is, there's a gentleman in London. His name is Richard Millington, and I followed him for many years. He's probably the online community expert. And just this year, he's been talking about community everywhere. And it's this idea that you don't have to have a discussion forum for your customers. You can bring community and help them build a sense of community wherever they are. So if you're starting out and your customers want to connect, but you're not able to open a new Slack for them or start a new forum for them, and bringing on like vanilla or something like that can be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, but you want to give them that sense of connection, giving them a monthly roundtable and getting them involved, asking them to talk, introducing new people on a call and thanking them for coming, adds that layer of community and comfort, so that people can start building their own relationships. And it's everywhere. You don't have to have your own community. You can be in other communities. You can show up in other Slack channels and participate and help your customers and the industry wherever they are, if you have the time, of course. Okay, we probably have time for maybe one more blurb about onboarding, if anybody wants to share. Rebecca, did you have any questions?
Hello. I did have one, and I have to admit I've been hopping a little bit on and off. So I don't know if this was discussed at all, but one of the challenges I have recently is onboarding for new contacts and existing customers. Right? So new people start, and curious to hear if people have ways that they are onboarding new employees and existing customers. Like to do the same thing as new customers or something different.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We kind of do a mix of things for that. So when we've identified a new admin that has joined a company, we will, if they're part of our scaled services, they get our digital in-product messaging, welcome, and onboarding set of nudges and messaging to get them started. So we automatically just enroll them in those programs. Coaches have a little bit more, it varies on by the coach, but they'll go in and they'll introduce them to the scaled training sources, but also kind of onboard them as they would a normal new customer, but as part of the process of our strategy reviews or kickoffs, they just kind of do it again. We want to make sure that we keep our sponsors at each company. So anytime somebody new comes in, we identify them as quickly as possible and make sure that they are onboarded as quickly as we can get them in, whatever tier they're in.
Yeah, that makes sense. We had a really poor I think it was G2 review recently. Someone's very frustrated that they asked for training for their new employees and support basically said no. So it's top of mind. I'm digging into that public feedback. So thank you. Yeah, I'd like to do something. It's hard. Some of our customers pay $0, some pay $100 a month, and some pay many thousands of dollars. And while we can't afford to have one-to-one services for free for the really small customers, we also can't afford not to, because they just get angry and frustrated. They're not going to be successful using our product.
Did you happen to hear what Teresa was talking about earlier in the call, where she had multiple layers?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Just making sure. If not, I was going to say I'll make sure I get you the link so you can listen, because I've definitely been on calls where I'm in and out and, have dogs or kids distract me and all of that. So, but it is interesting that you bring this up, because it's something that I've seen more conversations about on LinkedIn just this week. And I've had this problem. I had a customer that I was helping them with a tool that somebody else had purchased. And I asked the company, I was like, can I get access to your training for customers so that I can just get kind of updated on, using this? Because I had used it before. And they said, we don't have training that we just give access to. You go through the onboarding process with your customer success person, and they do it all through these calls where they'll do presentations. And I was like, that is just awful. Thank you for coming, Taylor. But we are at the end of the call, and I will share this probably next week in the community, and everyone's welcome to join into the community and share and talk about it. And I will see you next week. Bye.